We're
What is
live,
up,
Chaz.
entrepreneurs? How are you guys doing today? You are tuned into the Non-Corporate Network. You are watching Entreprenews. The Non-Corporate Network is a worldwide leader in entrepreneurship, and we are happy to bring you the top 6 trending small business headlines. Dustin and I debate them for 3 minutes each. I'm wearing a hat because I want to beat him while wearing a hat because I've already experienced the sweet taste of victory without a hat on multiple times now. So taking your thing, and I'm beating you this morning again.
Chaz again, just dreaming on. I mean, at least wear a hat from a winning team. Let's go. I mean,
anything you want to add before we get into our first story?
No, just thank you guys for tuning in. Excited to bring you the latest business news. I think we can just dive right in, man.
Let's do it. All right, Garmin, the next victim in the ransomware epidemic. This is something that is interesting. We know Garmin is a GPS company, and so a hacker group called Evil Corp, literally Evil Corp, it's like an awesome, straight out of Austin Powers, demanded $10 million from the GPS giant in the latest high-profile ransomware attack. Dustin, this is crazy. It seems like it's just standard now that people are getting ransomware. Big companies, obviously sensitive data and location data that's being compromised. In this example, should small companies be more worried about this? How detrimental can this be? Are we really putting enough resources into this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I didn't even know Garmin was still around. I mean, we got Google Maps and Apple Maps, so I mean, it's crazy to me that Garmin is still around. But I mean, when it comes to small business, I mean, I don't know if small business should be as worried as mid-size or corporations. I mean, this is the start of everything. My question is, we got CCPA that has thresholds of you got to fall under these guidelines if you have a certain amount of employees or a certain amount of CRM records or database records. I mean, I think the government needs to step in and protect the consumers on this front where, again, if you have so many people in your database or certain types of data, you need to be this secure. I mean, it's only increasing. I mean, we had Twitter. And the thing that's funny is it's trending on Twitter right now. So what's trending on Twitter is talking about how Garmin got hacked. And so it's like the company that got hacked a week or two ago is the one where people are getting their news about another hacked company. But I don't think small businesses should be as worried, although I do think they should start thinking ahead and figuring out how to get ahead of this. But I think more so than anything, the government needs to step in and set up parameters for these mid to large size businesses. What are your thoughts?
My qualm is with the media, I think, first and foremost. I wonder what happens after this. We hear the headlines, and we just have been trained into this short-term memory loss where, I mean, we forget that Instacart was hacked, Target was hacked, TurboTax, Intuit, one of the largest companies, was hacked, LifeLock. I mean, like, there's so many examples, and it seems like, oh, wow, it's a headline. Oh, they got hacked. Oh, I used them. Like, when I saw that TurboTax got hacked, it was like, oh, crap, like, I used them. And then 5 minutes later, I've forgotten about it entirely. And it's like, so what's happening? What's the fallout? Who is getting this data? I think that there's an obligation of the media to be able to, keep us informed and dive a little bit deeper into what is the implication here. Are they just saying, well, they got our data now, that's too bad, or like, what's happening?
Yeah, I mean, to your point, I wonder how many of these companies are actually paying the ransomware. It's like, it goes back to like the hostage situation or a kidnapper. It's like, do you pay, and then they'll know that you're going to pay, so they can come back and take it again. There's a lot of different variables at play here, but I think something needs to be done. The collective heads need to come together and figure something out.
Yeah, no, I like your idea with the CCPA stuff as well. Getting into our next story, Facebook's plan to crack down on NSFW material as well as deep fakes, call in the red team. So last year during Facebook's moderation algorithm was simple as overlaying your skin with dots on a grid. They have taken that to the next level and are really kind of leading the charge in terms of being cognizant of the risks to AI and synthetic generated media, as well as NSFW material that's kind of causing this outcry of boycotting outside of the hate speech. And so, will AI be the digital police here? Can we trust the red team to execute? And, do we have a choice?
I think it's awesome that they're doing something. I mean, with the whole, as we've been mentioning, things getting hacked and even more so just the what's being said on these platforms. I mean, it's great that they're trying to get ahead of it, but I don't think AI is at the point to where we can be 100% reliant on it. I mean, Facebook even said that AI covers about 90% of hate speech that gets posted on their platform. That 10% is a very, very, very big amount of content, or a large amount of content that's getting posted. And so it is good that they're taking action to get ahead of it, but I still think that there's a huge need for the human element in there. I don't necessarily think it should come from Facebook, because they're the ones that it's their platform. Whether it's a third party company, the government comes in. I hate that having the government step in has come out of my mouth on these last two things. I'm not a huge fan of that, but I mean, I think something needs to be done. I think a human element still needs to be part of this. AI is great, but I don't think we're there to moderate everything. I mean, do you think it should be 100% AI, or what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, you have two options based on what you're saying, right? You can either hire an influx of employees and content moderators and maybe cut a little bit into the unemployment rate, and, have that human element. I've talked about being an advocate of more crowdsourced content moderation that's done by the actual users of the product, as opposed to people that maybe their first language isn't English, or that are stationed in a place where they may not understand the humor that's in America and why something is offensive. And so, I mean, you can either hire a bunch of people, add that to your payroll, or the alternative is you let AI do the job. But then what's going to happen there? I think there needs to be more tax incentives and tax breaks, people going, like, money going back to the people, if you're going to opt out of hiring a lot of people and have AI do the job. So I think either way, like, it's kind of a recipe of both. I can understand why. I think the more that we use AI, though, the better it's going to be, and the more that we're going to be able to eliminate those people.
And see, I've been a huge thing on using AI to help the human element. It's like you can use AI to find a lot more questionable stuff. The stuff that gets questioned then goes into a queue for the human eye to go look at. And so I think it's not using one or the other. It's how you can leverage both.
Fair enough.
Cool. Going into our next story. So Gen Z, they're entering the workforce, and as a reminder, these are people that are 18 to 25 years old, and they're speaking up about what they really want at work. And it's a little surprising, considering what all of us millennials have wanted, us as in me, the fun workplace, and really what they're wanting is great healthcare insurance. They want remote work, and then 401k benefits. Things that they also want that aren't necessarily up there as high are job titles and assistance for student loan payments. And so really it's a lot different than millennials. Millennials wanted a fun workspace. We wanted, we want games, we want workout gyms, we want, just a fun environment. And so really with millennials wanting fun at work, Gen Z not wanting to be at work, I mean, what does this do for the workplace? I mean, millennials are wanting a fun workplace, and we're having to work remote. I mean, what does all this mean? I mean, does this make sense? Are millennials the oddball in all these generations when it comes to what they want at the workplace?
I mean, I don't think that millennials don't want these things necessarily. I think COVID has probably caused a little bit of a spike in the preferences of what people want. I mean, health insurance, you got people dropping like flies to COVID. It's like, well, I want to have health insurance and be protected. And so I think that, those things are definitely coming more into the fold a little bit. I think that within reason, right, there's real risks to everything that's happening right now. But, I think that it's not necessarily that that the Gen Z doesn't want this. I think it's more around but millennials are the people that are the biggest component of the workforce too. So it's hard to kind of pick one or the other here. But these Gen Z people are, like you said, 25 years old. They're just coming into the workforce. So this is a trend to it's only going to continue to proliferate.
I think one thing that's interesting is the student loan assistance. It's like all these companies are requiring more and more education, which then you got to take on more debt to even work for them. I mean, you got a lot of companies that are either doing the 401k or the assistance on student loans. It's like, to me, I think companies need to do a better job at giving more on that front. I mean, it's like, one, those who have debt or burdened, I mean, that they then have to go into their 401k, which hurts retirement. And so it's like, if companies are thinking more long term, I think it'd be awesome to see more companies step up and help maybe matching on paying that down. It's like, for every dollar you put in, we'll put in 75 cents, or we'll put in $1 up to a certain amount. But really, I mean, everyone is talking about how big the student loan bubble is. And so I think, for the sake of the economy, I think more companies need to figure out how to help on that end. I mean, especially when it comes to, we know Social Security is not going to be there whenever we retire. So it's like, really thinking of the financial side of things. One, how to reduce debt, but also increase that compounding interest on 401ks, I think would be huge.
Yeah, no, definitely good points there. And before we get into our next story, I want to mention that we're powered by State 48. Thank you guys for your support. We love what you're doing. They partner with a lot of great organizations, really awesome collaborations. Dustin, do you have anything you want to mention about State 48?
Yep, Clothing for All, inspired by Arizona. So they just dropped their U of A collaboration co-design, and man, the comments are insane. So yeah, they just launched an ASU and a U of A, and it's interesting. If you're wanting to read some good comments, check out their latest design on social media. You can find them just at State 48. You can also look online at their clothing, state48.com. So
Nice.
As we head into our next story, I mean, privacy and data seems to be a hot topic. I mean, with us, obviously, but we're always talking about the consumer side of things when it comes to data privacy. But how are employers protecting employees when it comes to data privacy? So where I'm going with this is, more people are working remote and companies are not providing devices. So it's, if I'm working remote and I got to use my device, I now have to use tools and apps that is going to help get work done. For example, getting into Slack, if you're going to have meetings, they need access to your microphone and your camera. That being said, it's they're needing access to my personal device to get company stuff done, which then that data is being used by Slack, which they can then sell to third parties. And so really where I'm going with this is, me as an employee, if I don't get a device, do I have the right to say, no, I don't want those apps because they're, I want to protect my privacy. I want to protect my data. Should they be laid off? Should they be fired? Should the business be looking at other ways to accommodate this? And my belief is that, the cost of computers are coming down. We got a client, IOXO, they have an awesome offering there on a monthly plan. But I think businesses need to give devices. They need to... people shouldn't be using their personal devices for this. I mean, I think, we're huge on the consumer side, but no one talks about the employees as well. I mean, what are your thoughts on this?
I think that, I mean, it's a good idea. There's companies that are doing that, but I think it exposes a much bigger problem, which is that we feel like we have to get a separate device to use for using stuff like Slack or Zoom, because you are that much at risk of being like data being stolen from you. I think that's a huge issue. So I really think that there needs to be some legislation. Like, I wonder why, the same way you can customize what types of emails or notifications you're receiving from a business, why are you not able to, in the same kind of easily type of way, be able to say, okay, I don't want microphone access, I don't want video access, and still give them access to the product without them taking the data? I don't want you to know what, like, I want these comments to be encrypted. Like, why do we not have controls like that? And if you have billions and billions of dollars that you can invest into R&D, it's not a matter of if it can be built. It's a matter of, let's withhold it so we can make more money off this data, because people don't know what they don't know. And we'll just continue to have a little checkbox with an I acknowledge the terms and services, and we'll just leave it at that. And it's like, I think that there's just such more of an obligation for the businesses. So I'd love to see some legislation or some lobbying on, providing some more transparency there.
Yeah. And I mean, where all this comes from is the chief evangelist officer over at Zoho just mentioned that it all boils down to tremendous greed. It's like you're making profits and revenue off of the actual product you're selling, and then taking the data from it and driving extra revenue. And it all comes down to greed. But I think, to your point, what it's going to come down to is simple toggles. It's like, this is what we're collecting. You can turn them on or off, and then that's it. And it shouldn't hinder the use of the actual product. Cool. So going on to our next story, the Senate is about to pass the HEALS Act. If it does pass, they have something in there where businesses can now write off 100% of meals now. It had been reduced to 50%, and you can only write it off if it's internal meetings, like employees. Like, we can't take a client out to eat and write that off anymore. And so they're trying to reverse that to incentivize businesses to go out and eat. The reason for this is that there have been 15,700 restaurants that have closed permanently as of July 10th. And so the whole goal is to allow it to be a deduction and a write-off so that more people can go out to restaurants. You got more money being spent in restaurants. My thing is, we got here because of the spread of COVID. If you're incentivizing businesses to go out to restaurants, that's a pretty small little place. Are you asking for trouble? Are we going to spread COVID a bit more and now have to shut restaurants down? All that being said, I mean, here in Arizona, they're talking about keeping gyms closed. So it's like, how are we going to incentivize more people to congregate at restaurants where more sneezing and all that is happening than going to a gym where people are already social distancing? What are your thoughts on this incentive?
Yeah, I'm 100% for it, to be honest with you. I really think that there has to be a catalyst to get people back out. And this is something that was a part of the tax code up until a couple of years ago. And a lot of people were really upset that it even changed. So I think that it's definitely something where it can be taken advantage of, i.e. like Dan Bilzerian, what we just saw. But like, if you're not taking advantage of it, then I think that, it's a great way to promote people going to restaurants, supporting local businesses. And so I love it for that reason. And honestly, like, I don't want to be insensitive on the COVID front, but 95% of people are recovering from this that don't have pre-existing conditions or something that puts them at a higher risk. And so, I was fear-mongered by my mom about the flu, and for years that didn't stop us from going out to eat. I look at this as something where if we keep conditioning society into we're too afraid to go to restaurants, like, it's not going to be a good look for us.
Yep. No, I agree. And I wonder if this, takes into account maybe takeout, or, you got more people that are working remote. So you're not even going into an office. And so those people that don't want to be part of it, but still want, to get a free meal, I guess, if you could get Uber Eats or something delivered to them. So, but I do think that this is, outside of the financial, I think this is huge for the mental side of things. I mean, as everyone is working in seclusion, this is a way to bring people together in a non-working environment that's fun, that still, you guys can discuss business. I know, we talk every Friday at our Fate Fridays about stuff. So I think even outside of the financials, I think it's going to be a huge positive for the mental side of employees.
Amen. Well, getting into our final story. So Amazon's Alexa app redesigned to focus on the bits people actually use. So traditionally, Amazon's Alexa has put their 300,000 plus unique skills that you can train your Alexa device to do on the homepage, very prevalent, very top. And it seems that they've kind of taken a different approach as of last week, where now they're going to try to dumb it down and make it just easier to use, and just kind of understand that here's the 5 things people are most often using Alexa for. So let's just make that more prevalent. It's interesting too on Apple devices. If the app is installed, then if you have the app open, you can use the Alexa by just doing a voice command, as opposed to before you had to touch the button. And so I think that there's a lot of interesting things that they're working on there. But I guess my big question to you is, why is voice technology not being adopted in this environment? This obviously shows that people aren't using this as much as they'd like to. And then, when will it begin to be more prevalent? Because it seems as of now that people are just a little bit hesitant, a little bit slow to, use this stuff in a way that actually adds value to their life.
It's hard. I mean, the average consumer, it's tough to connect all your devices to your Google Home and make it all work together. And so I think the dumbing it down, I think is a huge move in the right direction. I know we were talking before. I mean, our awesome producer Colton, he connected his stuff to his thermostat, his TV. I mean, so much cool stuff that you can do. But he struggled a little bit to make it happen, and he's the one doing all this, and I mean, he's just killing it on the technology side. So for someone like my mom or my wife, that's probably not going to happen. And so you have that huge barrier to
Right.
actually being able to use it. So I think this is a very good move. On top of that, I think this kind of falls on businesses as well. They're got a lot of businesses that are touting their voice capabilities, but when you go to use it, it doesn't work. And so there's that aspect of it. But I mean, most people don't know what keywords I need to say in order to actually connect to the right device and what things I can actually say. So getting back to Voice 101, I
Yeah.
think will expedite the overall adoption. Even more so, it's there's a huge incentive for these companies like Google and Alexa and Siri and all that to get more consumption, because there's a lot of revenue that can be made. And so maybe they should start incentivizing people based off of how you're using it. The more you
Right.
use it, you get points, which then can be redeemed for different apps or whatever it may be. I mean, there's a way to create some type of ecosystem that you're rewarded to actually use it, which then fuels the education. But what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that would definitely promote the usage of it. But, in terms of slow to adopt, the innovation curve is speeding up so quickly. I mean, there's 728 million iPhones. There's 100 million Alexas. There's 50 million Google Plus or Google Homes. It's like we've adopted. So why are we not using these tools that are designed specifically to voice in a way that's actually going to work? It's like I don't know what it takes, but it takes something.
It's the education. I mean, as you mentioned, those numbers, huge adoption. People want it, but people don't know how to use it. So we need to teach people how to use it, and then you got the adoption. I mean, it's in plain writing right there. You
Well,
got a lot of people that are buying.
you'd think paying $200 for one of these things, would equal using it.
You
But
can find a Google Home on OfferUp for $30.
well, yeah, but I mean, yeah, I hear what you're saying. No, this is all really interesting stuff. Are we at the bell on this story?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, no, I mean, I'm looking back. I think that, the thing I feel most strongly about is where's the media at in covering these ransomware attacks once the headline breaks that there was an attack? We need to know what's happening and what we're doing to solve this. And I think that it's going to take journalism to push the envelope from a legislative standpoint. So there needs to be more coverage on these types of things.
Yeah, no, I think the one that's interesting to me is the employee data. I think it's overlooked. I mean, like you just mentioned, the ransomware, people's data is it's just huge, and I think protecting.
It's just standard that it's stolen.
Yeah, and that blows my mind. I mean, it blows my mind, but I'm excited to see what happens. I mean, in the coming months and years to help protect both consumers and employees of their own personal data.
Yep. Well, thank you guys again for tuning in to Entreprenews. Again, you're watching it on the Non-Corporate Network, the worldwide leader in entrepreneurship. We are excited to bring you some more stories on Friday. If you feel strongly about your show or your idea for vision for something that you want to bring to life, we want to help. We want to help you out. We want to use our resources. So check us out at ncnbroadcast.com if you want to stay in touch with us. Also, if you're not watching us right now, you're listening to our podcast. You can find it on anywhere where you get your podcasts. We're all over the place. Just search Entreprenews. But yeah, with that, Dustin, you have anything you want to add?
No, I appreciate you guys tuning in, and new update. Oh, I won today. Sweet. So thank you guys for watching my debut.
I don't know about that. We're going to have to formalize the rules here because yeah, I felt like I was pretty ahead of you the entire episode, just right off the
I got a lot of amens, brother.
All right, entrepreneurs, get back to work. You guys got work to do. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time.